They say your early life romance came.
Alright guys, I got the Fiat Multiair cylinder head and a Multiair brick torn down next to me. What we're going to do, we're going to go through a step-by-step process showing you guys how to do the gaskets, how to get the Multiair off, how the Multiair works, everything Multiair related. So let's watch what we got going on here on the bench. Enjoy. Alright, now I know some of you are going to want to see how we go about doing the Multiair and how we do all the disassembly, reassembly, stuff like that. But what I have done is I have torn a Multiair completely apart, and I have got Multiair here on the engine, but I went through and pulled all the exhaust buckets, all the exhaust lifters out underneath the cam so you guys can see how the Multiair works. So first we're going to start off with how the Multiair works. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so how does the Multiair work? Well, the Multiair works off of the camshaft, all right? So it's no different than any other cam in a regular lifter driven car. So when the cam turns, you can see this lobe here and here. Let me get my big, here we go. Here, this lobe, you see how it's ramped up like that? So when the camshaft turns, you can watch the Multiair bucket push in. See that Multiair push in? That is essentially opening and closing the valves. Okay, so instead of it actually operating directly on top of the valve, like the exhaust cam does, the Multiair physically turns the camshaft lobe. Multiair physically works off the camshaft lobe in compressing oil. Okay? Here's something I want you to pay attention to. You see this exhaust cam lobe? You see how nice and tall and sharp it is? See that profile? You see the roller here? This lobe here is more of a roller designed cam because it rolls physically. I'm not sure if you can see that in there. Let me poke at it with something other than my big finger. There's physically a roller on the rocker arm. So when you're turning, it physically moves on a roller. It's a little roller right there. So that roller spins while it's moving up and down on the camshaft. Okay, this is important because somebody asked if the increased tension on the springs caused any additional wear on the camshaft or the components that it touches. It doesn't, because there's a roller on that rocker arm that compresses that spring in and out. So now that we got that out of the way, you see how it works. But that's just part of how it works. So we're gonna zoom out again here so you guys can see some more stuff that we're doing. All right, so I tore a Multiair brick apart tonight. I'm dropping stuff everywhere. Okay, so I tore a brick apart tonight, and I found something that was really, really interesting. So there's a top cover that goes on here. And these are to keep the Multiair rockers from falling off. This is a little tension arm here. So in here they've got a plate, and this plate allows one-way directional oil in through these 4 ports. These ports are being fed oil from 2 points on the cylinder head. There's a point here, and then there's a point here. Those are pressurized ports that fill these areas on top of the cylinder head. Sorry. That fill these chambers on top of the Multiair. What I found tonight were bleed holes. You are not going to be able to see that, so you're just going to have to trust me. I'm going to try to get in here nice and close. Right there. See that tiny, tiny hole? And there's another one right there. They look like little specks of dust on the Multiair assembly. When I saw those, I got to thinking. I was like, wait, they put bleeds in here. So the Multiair leaks, guys. There were some comments about the Multiair being a sealed system. It's not. Not only does it lead through that top plate, given they're extremely small holes, but right here, there's a lifter assembly that sprays oil, a jet, and it's a rocker arm pivot point. So the rocker arm snaps on. This rocker arm pivot point feeds the camshaft, so the camshaft is running up and down across this lobe, opening and closing it like that, right? So what's happening is this feeds a jet of oil up on this roller to lubricate the camshaft and roller interface. This leaks oil, and now I found that we have oil leaks in the top of the Multiair assembly. Why is that important? Well, in none of the diagrams that I've seen has it shown the leak points in the top. I have not seen a single diagram showing that there's leaking or there's a release system in the top of the Multiair brake. Really, really interesting when I saw that. So, oil comes in here. Okay, so here's how it works. Oil comes in through these one-way check valves, fills this compression chamber. This is a Multiair solenoid. Underneath the Multiair solenoid, oil travels into here, that fills a chamber underneath here. That chamber gets filled with oil, pushes the Multiair, of course it would have to be here. Pushes, fills this chamber. The Multiair pushes. When it pushes in, it activates two hydraulic actuators on the bottom that push on the valves. And this is what opens the valves. The compression from this, the compression from the camshaft roller pushing on this, like so, generates pressure, opening these valves underneath. Okay? What the springs do, okay? What the springs do is they maintain the contact between the roller, turn that sideways, they maintain the contact between the camshaft and the compression of the hydraulic oil. So in traditional terms you would have a valve float. Well, the spring would reach a point to where it'd be moving so fast based on RPM. I'm turning this with my hand, so I can't turn it at 10,000 RPM, or let's say 6,000 RPM. So what happens is that physically this rocker arm will hover. So there'll be an area as the camshaft's turning. It's turning so fast that it smacks the cam lobe, holds the cam lobe open, it smacks the rocker arm, holds the Multiair at a static point. By the time the cam comes around, the lobe is just starting to settle again. It hits it again, smacks it, it leaves it open, the camshaft rotates around. As it's slowly starting to set back down on the cam, it smacks it again. You never get full open or full closed, you never get full open with this, because it's constantly being smacked open and trying to recover. So take this spring, hit it with a hammer, and it's going to recover. But if you were to slow this down, and if I were to hit this spring with this hammer, by the time that hammer comes off that spring, the spring is no longer in contact with the hammer. The hammer has left before the spring has retracted all the way. That's exactly what's happening with the Multiair. The camshaft comes around, hits it, the hammer leaves the spring tension. I cannot believe. The hammer leaves the spring tension of the spring, but the spring is still reacting. That is exactly what's happening inside the Multiair, and that's why upgrading these springs makes it follow that lobe of the cam a lot closer. Okay, so hopefully that clears up some stuff that you guys had some questions about. Now, let's move forward with how do I get my Multiair off the engine, how do I replace the springs? Well, we are going to go over that really easy as soon as the damn compressor turns off. All right, compressor's turned off. Let's go over how to remove your valve cover. Okay, so I'm not going to do this on the car. I'm going to go through, I'm going to show you how to get the valve cover off, how to get the Multiair off. If you cannot get your coil packs out, if you cannot get the front cover off of the engine, if you can't do that, you should not be doing this install. Not trying to offend anyone, I am simply telling you that if you cannot get the basic items off the top of this valve cover, please do not follow this guide and have someone else qualified do the install. So to pull the valve cover off, there's a plastic shield on the front. People miss this bolt. There's a bolt hidden in the front of that shield. On the 124, it's a 13 or 14. On the 500, it's a 10 millimeter. So there is a bolt that comes in right here on the front of this cover. Do not pry this off. You will break your front cover. So pull that bolt out first. How do we know about that being broken? People have called us and told us. There's a series of bolts around the outside of this that are 8 millimeter. You're going to want to pull those off. Trick. There's a bolt hidden in this hole right here, okay? Make sure you get that bolt. I almost broke a valve cover because I thought I'd gotten that bolt and didn't get it off. Okay, so we're gonna pull the valve cover off, and first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna throw away the gasket, okay? Because we've got a new gasket that's coming in our new kit. So we're gonna throw away the gasket. We also have brand new spark plug tube seals. Now, how do you get spark plug tube seals out? So what I do is I'll flip it over, take a screwdriver, get that, okay, so I'll take a screwdriver, I'll slip it in right next to that spark plug tube seal, give it a bang, knocks it out. How do you get new ones in? Flip the valve cover over, take your spark plug tube seal that you got, now you're gonna notice, okay? I want you to pay attention, there's a little round thing right here. There's a little flat spot on the spark plug tube seal. Make sure that flat spot points towards the little round thing underneath the valve cover, okay? What we like to do when we install these, we make a homemade little handy dandy installer. This socket matches that of the spark plug tube seal. They're almost the same diameter. So you're gonna put this in, snug, make sure you have it clearance. You take your handy dandy homemade little tool, put it on top, give it a whack with a hammer, spark plug tube seal is installed. Really straightforward. We are including in our new kit, we've got 4 spark plug tube seals. We have got a valve cover gasket, whee! And we got a couple other exciting things that we're going to be including. All right, so we got our valve cover off, right? This is a really pretty red one. Now we got to get our Multiair off. So I'm going to demonstrate something really quick though. Oh, that's broke. Okay, so I just broke that Multiair. Now this Multiair was broken before, okay? I have literally put my hand on these and broken them in the past. It does not take much to break these. Don't set anything on them. I've said it before, I'm saying it again. Don't set anything on, you're gonna break them, okay? We've got a T47, which is a really tight fit on these Multiair bolts. Okay, so the Multiair bolts that hold the Multiair assembly down, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Do not try to put one in that hole. There's not a Multiair hole there. So, or a Multiair bolt hole there. So we're gonna take the T47, tap it down, use our impact, and we're gonna take the Multiair screws out. Okay. I've already took all these out to speed this process up. Again, there's 9 of them, okay? So, get all 9 of these bolts set off to the side. Be careful with the Multiair. The Multiair might have a little bit of pressure underneath, behind it, so it might pop off. Take a screwdriver and just lightly pry up on the Multiair. It's just gonna pop up like that. It's really straightforward, really easy to do. You've got the Multiair up and now out of the car, and you have to pry a little bit on the back side. Boom, you've got it out. Multiair is off. Cool. I'm gonna set that off to the side because we're gonna talk about the gasket that is on the back of the Multiair. So there's a gasket that goes right back here. Little blue dots go up. This is gonna be in our new kit. Put the new gasket on. The new gasket helps seal the Multiair. Does all sorts of great stuff with making sure that the oil stays where it's supposed to stay. Wipe it down before you put a gasket on. And now we're going to talk about Multiair filter. A Multiair filter. What is a Multiair filter? Multiair filter is right here. Okay, you need a 10 millimeter Allen. That right there is your Multiair filter. Now again, I've loosened this already. I'm going to pull this out. Okay. On the end of this, there's going to be an O-ring. It's missing on this. Make sure you get the new one in with the O-ring. When you put this in, I could not find a torque spec for this. So I'm going to say put it in tight, but don't go crazy. Fair enough? Fair enough. So we've replaced our Multiair filter now. We've torqued it back down. Now we got to get onto the springs. How are we going to do the springs? Well, I've got a nifty little tool that I use for installing the springs that I don't have over here. Found it? So we're going to do the springs now. Okay guys, I've done the spring video like 3 or 4 times now. We're going to do it one more time so everyone can see how nifty and easy it is. Okay, you see this? This is a trim tool. Take the trim tool, put it on top of the Multiair spring. Okay, push down on the Multiair spring. Push the rocker out of the way. Okay, I've got the rocker out of the way. You're going to repeat this 4 times. We're going to pull the spring out. Okay, please stay on top. I really should have cleaned the bench up a little bit more for this. Spring. Throw old spring in garbage, put new spring on. Okay, I like to put the spring in first. Take the Multiair button, the Multiair piston compressor thing. Get that back inside there. Get that back in. Okay, we're in. We're going to take the handy dandy little compressing tool. Okay, we're going to compress this Multiair spring. We're going to string this rock arm up and we're going to sneak it in between these two. Ready? And 1, 2, 3. Well, 1, 2, whatever. Okay. Pull the tool out. You got it. You could do it with a pair of pliers. You could do it with a screwdriver if you had to. Multiair install spring, we done. We do it 4 times. Okay? Okay, bottom side. See all these? See, I have a couple missing. One's broken. This is a used Multiair. All of these have got to be in there. Okay, there's a little spring and some other stuff in there, blah, 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 blah. You want to make sure that these do not fall out. Now, they do have retention clips. Hopefully you can see this. There's a little tiny you can't see that. There's a little itty bitty circlip on the bottom of these that keeps these from falling out. These do not just fall out. These literally have to be pulled out, so don't pull them out. Okay, we're gonna flip this back over. We put all of our springs on. We have a brand new gasket on, okay? We're gonna put the Multiair brick back on. This is where everyone says that you need a tool. You don't need a tool, you just need to use common sense. All right? We're gonna put 2 bolts on each end. Okay? We are going to start these bolts, but I'm gonna pick this up, get it lined up on the dowels. Okay? So we're just gonna get these bolts started. I'm gonna start with the 2 front bolts first. Okay, so we got the 2 front bolts started. Just gonna keep tightening them down. You see here, see how the springs are getting compressed as we tighten this down? Just back and forth. Okay, there's that one. There's that one. Get the back one. Get this back one. All right, go through, take your torque wrench, torque each one of these down to 28 to 30 foot-pounds is what we've seen that works. And get this all tightened down. All 9 bolts tightened down. You didn't drop any of the clips. And now you have a Multiair assembly done with new springs. You have to start and stop the car several times because the Multiair assembly has been drained of its oil. So it is going to miss on initial start. It's going to run kind of funny. It's going to be a little chuggy. You have to start it, stop it, let it wait a minute, start it, stop it, let it wait a minute. So let it run for about a minute, turn it off for about a minute, start it for a minute, turn it off. Do this a couple times. Eventually all of the Multiair assembly will purge itself of the air that's inside of there and the car will start up. This right here, this little gem, if you forget to plug this in, and a lot of people have, the car will run, the car will start, it just will not make any power. This is your oil viscosity temperature sensor that goes into the back of the Multiair. Please make sure that you get that plugged back in. Now, we put our valve cover gasket on our valve cover. Pretty straightforward to do. There's little locking docks for it and everything. So you put the new valve stem seal, you put the new spark plug tube seals in. You got the new valve cover gasket on. We're gonna flip this around. But before we do that, we include a little bottle of forma gasket. Okay, you're gonna want to put sealer on a couple of key locations. You want to put sealer right here. See if I can pull this off real quick. You are going to want to put sealer right here, right here, right here, right here, here, and here. Just a little dab. You don't have to go crazy. Just a little dab of sealer on those key locations. Okay, now we put the valve cover on. Valve cover. All right, so we got everything put back together. We've got the valve cover back on, the cylinder head. We did the Multiair, showed you how to do the springs. We explained the Multiair operation. What else do you guys want? Well, let's take a look at the kit. On a dirty piece of cardboard. Okay, so in the kit, for the new Multiair springs, you get the forma gasket, 4 spark plug tube seals, the valve cover gasket, and the Multiair filter that was in the front of the cylinder. There's more. There is more indeed. Sorry, I'm packaging up the Multiair filter back into the box. So, what else comes with it? We're now including the Multiair gasket. This is what seals the block to the Multiair. And then you get the four springs for the Multiair assembly. I would love to show you springs, but we are currently sold out. But the good news is we've got another 600 sets coming in to take care of all of the Multiair spring upgrade needs that you guys are going to have. And I know you guys are going to buy us out of those in like a month, right? So, we showed you how to get the thing put together. We showed you how to get it torn apart. We showed you how easy it is to break the Multiair connectors. You guys need to tell me what you want to see in the videos for the Multiair, for the Fiat, for whatever we're doing. Because we love the Fiat community and we love that the springs are working so well on so many different people's cars. With that being said, I think we've got everything pretty much covered. You get to look at my ugly mug now. So we showed you kind of all the tools that were needed for the install. We showed you how the Multiair works. We showed you how to do the install. If there's any points that you need us to reference, really quick, I mean, we can go over a couple of things. What did we use here? We used an 1 1/16 half-inch for installing the seals inside the valve cover. That's an 1/16 socket to tap it in. The Multiair is a 10mm Allen. That's right in the front of the Multiair oil filter. That's right in the front of the cylinder head. Again, 10mm Allen. The trim tool. This is what we use to compress the springs so we can get them out of the Multiair assembly. Real simple tool. You can pick one up at any supplier, auto parts store supplier. 8mm, 10mm, 13mm sockets for getting the valve cover off. Again, don't miss the hidden bolts, the 2 bolts that I talk about. Make sure you get the Multiair oil temp sensor in the back plugged in. I covered that. I want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases, making sure that you guys don't miss anything. I guess outside of that, enjoy your video, enjoy the install. Hopefully this helps everyone. Like any of the big YouTubers out there, I want to make sure that you guys share it. Please like it and subscribe. Subscriber count, shares, and likes just build the channel for future installs such as this. I want to thank everyone for swinging by, watching the video. Take care, guys. Thank you.